Hello, everyone, and welcome to NASA Bunker 33. I'm your host, Quiddy's the Sprinkler, and as always, the producer that never fucks up anything ever and is never muted when they start to talk, Zoomy. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing fine tonight.
And are you muted?
No, I'm not. They can hear me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was told we needed an update in our look, so I went ahead and yeah, we're on the starship. What's the name of the starship again?
uh, I don't remember now. I've already forgotten what we called it.
The USS Big Titties.
Oh the
The
SS
SS
Big
Big
Titties.
Titties.
Yeah, yes. And I am Captain Sprinkler of the SS Big Titties.
Wait, does that make me the comms officer?
You're the titty whisperer.
The Titty Whisperer. I like that. So yeah, tonight.
All right, yeah. So tonight, um, I figured it was about time for another war in Ukraine update. There's been a lot of news since our last update, and even like when I was like, okay, I've got plenty of information for a show. This was early in the week. This might have even been like last Sunday. I was like, all right, I've got plenty of information for a show. Let me write an outline, and this will be the show. And then this week happened, and there was so much news coming out from everywhere. I mean, even today, like I was struggling just to get in some of today's news uh, because there's been some big events. And one of the biggest was US President Joe Biden went to Saudi Arabia and worked out a deal with with Saudi Arabia basically to flood the oil market
Oh
with
god.
oil.
Wow.
Uh, Saudi Arabia has removed their cap on how much oil they produce, and I believe the US has as well. And this is going to flood the market, which is going to drive oil prices way down.
Yeah, good. Good.
Uh, so why why I bring this up? Uh, Russia's economy is oil based.
Yeah, it is. Very much
That's
so.
where Russia makes like 90% of their money comes from oil. And the way that Russia has things set up is technically, and I'm doing air quotes here, technically, uh, their oil companies are independent companies, but if Putin doesn't like what you're doing, then he'll ruin your life and he'll just kind of take your company.
Yeah.
And then it belongs to him and his buddies and uh, the government. So that's why there's only like two Russian oil companies now. Uh, but what Russia has done is they've capped the price that Russian oil companies can sell oil for, and that's $43 a barrel. So every barrel of oil that Russia sells, or Russian oil companies sell, they make $43, regardless of the price on the international markets.
So
So
they're poorly screwing
every
themselves.
dollar, every dollar above $43 goes straight to the Russian government
Ah,
to do
okay.
with whatever they want. And as everyone should know, anyone who has been alive in the past uh, year, the past 6 months at least,
Yeah.
knows gas prices are a little bit high right now.
Yeah, they are.
The price of oil per barrel, it peaked about a month into this war. And I forget what it was, but it was over $120 a barrel. Uh,
That's a bit
so
pricey.
I've got to pull up something because I wrote all of this out for myself. Uh, I've got to pull this up. Okay, so Russia produces 11.2 million barrels of oil every single day.
Well,
And think about that. We'll just call it we'll just call it $120 a barrel. So $120, 11.2 million. Now Russia consumes 3.6 million dollar or 3.6 million barrels of oil per day, which leaves them able to sell on the open market 7.6 million barrels every day,
damn.
uh, which is the third largest producer of oil in the world after the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, the two countries that just agreed to flood the market with cheap oil. Uh, so today, uh, oil closed at $97.57 per barrel. We'll call it $98, uh, which means that the Russian government today made $55 per barrel of oil. $55 times 7.6 million. That's $418 million that Russia
Wow.
made today
Wow,
selling oil.
that's a lot of money.
Uh,
But,
so,
but I'm hearing a
uh,
huge but here somewhere.
yeah, there is a huge but. Uh, so, if you remember a little over 2 years ago, there was this thing that went around. It was a virus, and it caused a lockdown. And oil prices kind of tanked because no one was buying oil, because no one was traveling, because everyone was basically locked inside their homes.
Oh, I wonder why. Gee, I
So,
wonder.
when that happened, I think it was like beginning of April of 2020, the price of oil tanked out at $48 a barrel, around $48 a barrel.
Yeah.
Um, So instead of the $55 per barrel that Russia made today, if we were able to tank the market down to where it was during lockdown, Russia would have made $5
Yeah.
per barrel.
Yeah.
Uh, so that means they would have made $380 million less today if oil prices were where they were in April of 2020.
Inflation's
Now,
a bitch.
Now, keep that number in mind, $380 million. That's how much less Russia would have made today if oil was at that price. Okay. So, the next thing I did after learning that we're about to tank the price of oil to screw up Russia, uh, I started thinking, well, exactly what is Russia paying for this war in Ukraine? So I did a little digging, and the numbers that I found online went anywhere from like uh some some estimates were as low as like $95 million a day, but I kind of laughed at those because I
That's
know it's a lot more.
still a lot. I mean,
And some went up to like $600 million a day.
wow.
And I kind of wave off like the highest number and the lowest number, and I normally try to
Yeah,
go somewhere in between.
yeah, that's
And then I
reasonable.
found an article from Newsweek, uh, May 18th of this year, that said that Russia is spending about $15.5 million every hour there in Ukraine.
Oh,
And I thought, okay, that seems reasonable. So I did. Well, there's 24 hours in a day, and they're spending $15.5 million every hour. So what's 15.5 times 24? Well, it turns out that's
yeah,
$380 million.
yeah.
And what number did I just fucking say to remember?
$380 million.
$380 million, which is how much Russia would have lost had had the price been $55 a barrel instead of $98 a barrel.
Well, shit. So
So
us taking the price of oil would cause them to suddenly lose out of funding for their little poor,
suddenly lose
essentially.
the
The
exact
same amount
amount
they
that
need.
they're spending on this war.
Yeah, the exact amount they were spending.
So, uh, this is also going to benefit a lot of people because, hey, all of a sudden it's not going to cost $150 to fill up your tank.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it'll be good
You
for
know,
people too.
uh, plus, I mean, there's really only two options if you think about it with Russia. It's either continue fighting in this quagmire that they've gotten themselves into, or
Starve them
let
out.
everyone in Russia starve.
Yeah, starve them out. God damn it! Why do we keep on having to starve Russia?
I mean, Russia keeps trying to starve Ukraine, so it's like Ukraine's trying to play the Uno reverse here or something. I mean, poetic justice here.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
look at Soviet Russia. They all starved to death, and now they're just repeating the same goddamn thing.
yeah, yeah.
Well, they didn't all
Uh,
starve to death, but you know what I mean. They starved a lot. A lot of people were
yeah,
starving at that time.
and they did cause several famines in Ukraine that
Yeah, yeah.
uh, I can't remember if it was 5 million deaths each famine
Oh,
or 5 million deaths total in the 20th century,
I would think five
but
total. I would say five
at least
total.
5 million people died in the 20th century because of famine
Famine.
in Ukraine caused by
Russia.
Russia.
Yeah.
And we've got some videos here.
Yes,
Over
we do.
in the Google Drive, there should be, and I've got to find it because I've already forgotten what I called this video. Um,
We're not playing the toys video. No.
uh,
No. No.
I want to. I think everyone would enjoy that. Uh,
But I'd be worried about a community
well,
guideline strike.
okay. First, pull up pick burned field.
Hickburn Field.
Yeah, go ahead and pull that up, and we'll show that while I'm trying to find. Okay, I found the video as well. Uh,
Hickburn Field. Okay.
yeah.
Go
And you may
ahead.
not want to actually show this folder on the stream because there is some gore, and YouTube might have a little bit of a fit with
Well,
some of the images in this folder.
I do have the screen that can hide the screen, so
Yeah.
that's why I put that
Uh,
screen. That's why I put the stars up because don't need people seeing everything all the time.
oh, sorry. I was looking at the call and not the actual stream. I was like, wait, you're just showing the entire Google Drive on the stream, but no,
No,
that's
no,
just the call. Okay,
we got the
yeah,
star field. We got the
yeah.
star field up.
So pull up Burnfield on the stream so everyone can see it. Um, One thing that Russia is doing right now to try to cause another famine is they're firing incendiary charges and cluster munitions into wheat fields. And Ukraine is referred to as the bread basket of the world for a reason, because they produce something like 10% of all the wheat in the world.
Damn.
Uh, I mean, they feed the world.
Yeah.
And wheat does this really crazy thing when it gets ready for harvest. It gets really dry.
Yep.
So if you set it on fire,
Ooh.
it burns a lot.
Yeah, it
So
would.
as you can see in this picture right here, that's actually a shell of a cluster munition that was dropped on this field, and you can see where the field burned.
Yeah.
So they're just, they're firing uh uh firing rockets and bombs into fields to burn them just so Ukraine can't
Wow.
eat or sell their crops.
Wow. That's kind of fucked up.
They're also firing at grain storage on farms and public grain storage, and I've seen some. I saw one interview with a Russian truck driver who's getting paid a lot of money right now, basically to go to farmers in Ukraine and steal their grain, load his truck with stolen grain, and take it down to the port and put it on Russian ships to go sell uh, uh, in other places.
Damn.
So Russia is just looting what grain there is in Ukraine and trying to destroy everything that they can't get their hands on. And a lot of the grain that Ukraine sells goes to developing and third world nations, which can and will more than likely cause a global food
Famine.
shortage
Yeah.
as soon as this winter.
Alright.
So, uh, one thing that we've tried to do, and this happened this week, Russia has been blockading the Ukrainian ports and keeping ships from coming in and actually exporting their grain ever since this war started. So we had a little powwow this week uh, with some folks from Ukraine, some folks from Russia, and some other folks, and we worked out a deal where we will ease the sanctions on Russia exporting fertilizer in exchange for them opening
Excuse me.
a corridor in the Black Sea so that Ukraine can export grain again.
Oh, good.
Uh, and I find it pretty ironic that fertilizer export is what Russia decided on, because Russia's number one export, when we're done with what we're about to do with oil, is going to be fertilizer. They're exporting a lot of human sized bags of fertilizer to Ukraine right now. They go to Ukraine, they get shot, and then they rot away in a field and fertilize it for next year's harvest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's Russian fertilizer for you right there.
Yeah.
A lot of people call it cannon fodder, but I call it fertilizer.
Hope they're carrying sunflower seeds at least.
Yes. Uh, yes, there's a they they all should be given some bags of sunflower seeds to put
Yeah,
in their pocket,
yeah,
before they cross into Ukraine, so
yes, they
that
should.
when they die, flowers will
Oh,
grow.
yep, exactly.
Uh, all right, so let's see, where are we in the list of things that I'm going to talk about tonight? Oh, the video. The video is also in that folder, and it's called Harvest. If you can pull
Harvest,
that up.
harvest. There it goes. Pause that. Hide everything. There we go. Oh,
And
okay.
that's a Ukrainian trying to harvest as much of his wheat as he can before it burns off.
Oh, God.
That's what the reality is. And this is not the front lines of the war.
No, it isn't.
This is however fucking far Russia can fire shit into Ukraine. As we've seen with the terrorist strikes that Russia has been doing, however far they can fire into Ukraine,
They
that's where
will.
they're going to fire.
Yeah.
Uh, and that brings me to a pretty sad thing. I can't remember if we talked about the last stream, if we talked about Kremenchuk, I think is the name of the town.
I
Uh,
can't recall.
uh, a few weeks ago, Russia fired a cruise missile. I think it was a Caliber cruise missile into a shopping mall in Kremenchuk in central Ukraine. And the shopping mall had about 1,000 people in it. There were no valid military targets anywhere around the shopping mall. It was just a busy shopping center. And they fired a precision missile with a 2 metric ton warhead into it
Oh,
and killed, I think it was about 60 people, 50 to 60 people,
damn.
injured a couple of hundred others, and completely destroyed the shopping mall. And that's really what started the outcries of Russia is a terrorist state at this point.
Yes, they
And
are. Yeah.
they should be isolated from the rest of the world like we have done with other terrorist states.
Yeah.
Uh, we had to do it with Libya under Gaddafi. We had to do it with Iran. We had to do it with North Korea, and we should do it with Russia as well.
Yep.
Uh, and then they did it again just a couple of days ago.
Oops, they did it again. Sorry.
They fired another precision cruise missile into a city center, um,
God.
in a city called Venezia. And there's an extremely sad story involved with this. There's a lot of sad stories
Yeah.
involved in it, but there's one especially. There's a little girl named Lisa. I think she's 4 years old, and this past holiday season, she went to meet the first lady of Ukraine and celebrate with her because she had Down syndrome, and she was kind of Ukraine's poster child for children with Down syndrome.
Okay.
And everyone talked about how lovely she was and how she lit up the room and everything. And uh, her mom and her were going to her doctor in Venezia, and her mom made a video of her uh, walking along and dancing and playing. About 5 minutes later, the missile hit. And I'm not going to show the pictures of Lisa. I don't think YouTube would let us because it's not a good picture.
Yeah.
Uh, and right next to her little body is the stroller, and right next to the stroller is her mom's leg. And uh, the video that I want you to play is in the Google Drive, and it's called Grieving Mother. Lisa's mom survived without her leg, but Lisa didn't.
Let's play that. Все одно він дивиться і нас не захищає. Скільки ми розпросили закрите небо. А світ просто дивиться, як Україну вбиває. Як вбивають наших дітей, солдат, людей, щоб захистити від цього тирана, тому що якщо не ми, він піде далі і все розрушить, все.
That video does not need to be translated.
No, it doesn't.
You can only imagine the kind of pain that she's going through. I thought about showing the video of that you can see on her phone there, or the video that she posted on Instagram literally 5 minutes before Lisa died, of Lisa dancing around. But again, there were no military targets anywhere around. The closest thing to a military target, and you'll see in this next video, is a memorial to the the Ukrainian Air Force, which is an old MiG-21 standing on a pylon, and that's it. That was the closest thing to a military target, and Russia fired and killed, again, 50 or 60 civilians and injured a couple of hundred more for no fucking reason. So the next video we'll watch is same folder, Venezia Aftermath. And it's like the fourth from the last video.
There it is. Screen.
And this building was a hospital. And the building you see there was actually an opera house. And you can see the MiG-21 with the ring around it in the center there.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing to a military target that Russia hit. So that's just two. That's just two examples of complete terroristic actions carried out by Russia. Uh, we'll show one more, and then we'll move away from this target. Um, what did I call that video? It's something with civilians. I remember that. Get back up to the top. Uh, civilian buildings. We'll watch that video, and I'll give you a little introduction to this video while Zumi's pulling it up. This is actually a Foreign Legion uh, battalion or whatever that we're walking. So this is actually in English. You can hear these people talking in English when this happens. So go ahead and play it.
Сука, бля. Бля, развалили нахуй все здание.
Jesus, fuck, man, those are civilian buildings.
Я и civilian building. Это было целое здание. Блять! Сука! Ёбаный рот!
And that's Russia casually destroying an apartment building. And that has happened hundreds of times. They'll fire a rocket or a bomb or a cruise missile or something, and it will hit an apartment building and kill people. You know, a lot of people like to bring up children, and yes, I admit I did bring up a child just a moment ago, because you know it's one thing for someone who has lived a full life, someone who's in their 80s or 90s, or you know, someone who would probably die of natural causes soon. It's one thing when they get killed. It's a tragedy when they get killed. But it's completely fucking unacceptable when a 4-year-old is ripped to shreds. Someone whose life has just begun, who had their entire life ahead of them. And I've seen it dozens of times. Now, Lisa's the only one that I'll bring up tonight, but I'll just say I've seen it dozens of times. Young kids, less than 10 years old, have been killed in strikes like that. And there's no reason for it. There's nothing military anywhere near these. That video we just watched, that's the closest the military was to any of these targets, was, you know, a couple of troops walking through a field nearby.
And yet, the same people who are anti-abortion don't seem to give a shit about anything that's happening over there.
Yeah. Well,
and in fact, they cheer it on what's happening over there.
Yeah, a lot of them do, because Trump loved to suck him some Putin dick.
Yeah, and a lot of right-wingers still love Russia, even though they're killing children indiscriminately.
Yeah.
Yet, if you're in the womb, it's somehow different.
Oh yeah, pro-lifers only give a fuck about you until you come out of the vagina.
Yeah, once you're out, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, but that's a
subject.
topic for another night.
That's another subject. Yeah.
But another person that really loves to suck on the Putin dick, Lukashenko is his name, and being a dictator is his game. He's the dictator of Belarus. He calls himself Europe's last dictator. And even though he lost the democratic election with only 15% of the total vote, and his opponent got 85%, he decided that he was their president, and he stayed in office, and he is a Putin puppet, and he loves to rattle the old saber as much as Putin does. Um, both of them love to blame the United States for what's happening in Ukraine because, the United States is the one that apparently invaded Ukraine, not Russia. Uh, because the US has a military, therefore Russia had to invade Ukraine. That's literally what they've said.
Yeah.
Uh, and one of the funny things about Lukashenko this week, he said that he's probably going to have to invade Poland soon
Oh God.
because Poland, as soon as Russia invaded Ukraine and sent a bunch of troops to Belarus, and Belarus uh, mobilized their military, Poland was like, oh shit, we should probably put some troops on our border in case something happens. And so now he's blaming Poland for getting ready to strike Russia through Belarus or something. I don't really understand. He's already said that he may have to invade Ukraine to keep Poland from invading Ukraine
What?
because that makes total sense.
No, that doesn't make a goddamn sense. What?
I mean, these people are off their goddamn rockers. Uh,
Yeah.
and
That's putting it mildly.
I know it's not exactly. Let me make sure I have the video first. QR. Yeah. The next video we're going to watch is Russian propaganda. It's not exactly that, but I just want you to see how batshit insane these people are. This is Russia State News, and they're saying, no, that's not the right video. Oh, the Google Drive.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Google Drive Russian propaganda.
Oh, okay.
Uh, they're saying that if Ukraine keeps firing HIMARS at Russian positions inside of Ukraine, that's technically attacking Russia because Russia is occupying those regions. So that's seen as an act of war, which means that they'll have to go to war now.
Oh God.
This is literally what they're saying. They're saying that because Ukraine is fighting back, they may have to go to war. So, yeah, go ahead and play this batshit insanity. I may have to read it because it looks like it's going to get cut off at the bottom.
No, I switched screens. I switched screens.
Необходимы действия ответные,
Oh,
совершено
okay, yeah.
преступление, должно последовать возмездие. Мы об этом говорим, и о справедливом возмездии сегодня идет речь. Обстреляли не Украинскую область, обстреляли Россию, потому что Херсонская область — это Россия.
Pause it for a
Запорожская
second.
область — это Россия.
So, Kherson and Zaporizhia is not even Russian controlled. Zaporizhia is in the Ukraine territory, well behind the front lines.
Well,
And
okay.
Kherson is well within Ukraine and has only been occupied by Russia since February, the end of February. So no, this is not Russia that they're firing on. You don't get to to invade a country and then say you can't shoot where I am because this is my country.
Yeah.
That's not how any of this works.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and keep playing.
Харьковская область– это Россия. Одесса, Николаев– это Россия. Они стреляют по нам. Есть радикальный и самый простой способ решить проблему с поставками западных вооружений на Украину. Уничтожить все ключевые объекты железнодорожной инфраструктуры на западе, откуда идет трансфер с Польши, и на юге, откуда идет трансфер с Румынии. Я не знаю, наверное, есть некие политические обстоятельства, которые пока не позволяют реализовать концепцию ударов по центрам принятия решений в Киеве. Но совершенно очевидно, что масштабирование все новых и новых поставок западных вооружений серьезным образом будет осложнять наши успехи в области проведения специальной военной операции. Поэтому настало время ударов по мостам, обрушить мосты в Днепр. За каждый украинский удар по российскому Херсону, российской Новой Каховке, один из мостов должен быть обрушен в Днепр. Не надо стесняться это делать. Это легитимные военные цели. Вся система государственного и военного управления Украины, ключевые объекты, это законные легитимные цели для российской армии в ходе специальной военной операции. Мы видим этот непрерывный поток западных визитеров, которые уже безбоязненно приезжают в Киев и участвуют в этих пропагандистских спектаклях. Они должны бояться. Это, во-первых, приезжать в Киев, а во-вторых, они должны лишиться физической возможности прибывать в Киев как по воздуху, так и по железнодорожному транспорту. Топливно-энергетический комплекс Украины – легитимная военная цель. Мы должны
All right,
поставить
go ahead
режим
and
Зеленского
pause it.
Okay.
I just wanted to show that much. So think about what they're saying here. If they shoot at us while we're in their country, then we should blow up every bridge. And they're even saying that they should shoot bridges in other countries because those countries are shipping stuff to Ukraine using
Wow.
those bridges.
Oh.
You know, the corridors in Hungary and Poland that they're shipping supplies in through. They're talking about blowing up bridges there too. And they're talking about shooting at people that come to visit Kyiv and tour Bucha and Irpin, where, you know, Russia committed massacres, where Russia raped and tortured and killed children, where Russia lined up hundreds of people and shot them in the back of the heads and then buried them in a mass grave. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying. They're saying they should shoot at people because they're being shot at for invading a country. That's Russian state television for you.
And yet the population buys it up. Because
Yeah.
they're not given any other news sources. Nothing to
And
contrast it.
speaking of bridges, there's another video in that folder called Bridge Deletion, and I kind of like this video. The story behind it. This was actually a bridge in Borodenice, something like that, near Lysychansk. And when Ukraine retreated from that area, they blew the bridge up so that Russia couldn't use it. And this is one of the best detonations I have ever seen in my life. So let's see a bridge get deleted.
Wow. Yeah,
Look at that shockwave.
that's definitely a bridge getting deleted.
I mean, there was a bridge there, and now there's
It's
a
gone.
mushroom cloud there.
Yeah.
And even though, a lot of times I don't like to share videos or things like that unless you can clearly see the results. I don't think that the smoke clears by the end of this video, but I have this sneaking suspicion that there's not a bridge there anymore. And
I think there's a bridge-sized hole there now.
I, I don't really need visual evidence to confirm that there's no bridge there anymore.
I believe there is a bridge-sized hole. That- you can
Let's
talk
just
in that
watch
area.
that detonation one more time just to appreciate it. Appreciate the shockwave.
Yeah, that's a huge shockwave.
When you absolutely positively do not need a bridge.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right. So where are we in all of this now? We are let's jump over to the green room. I want to talk about the TikTok brigade for a moment. Have you heard of the TikTok brigade?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So, have you ever heard of a country slash region of Russia? It was a country until Russia invaded it, called Chechnya.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I've heard of a
yeah,
place called Chechnya.
it's ruled by this dipshit named Kadyrov that is kind of a strong man slash puppet of Putin, and he sent a bunch of his quote unquote fighters to Ukraine to help Russia. But these guys, why I say they're quote unquote fighters, every time we see anything from them, they're not shooting at anything. Uh, there are videos of them just walking down a road and turning and dumping their magazines into a random bush while yelling Allahu Akbar.
Oh God. Wow.
Just doing like stuff that looks really good in TikTok videos,
Yeah.
but it's not actually what you would do in a war.
No,
That's
yeah.
literally not how you fight.
Yeah, it's the
And
opposite of fighting.
every time they've actually come in contact with Ukrainian troops, they've suffered massive losses.
I wonder why.
So yeah, uh let's check out that the TikTok battalion video.
Mám baj ennek is lél for.
Got to make sure those evil street lights don't hurt anyone anymore.
جاي دوطان وين جاي دوطان لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله اطلع نرمال قولي أخ ما تسيبه علاوة ما يدور
That's one of my favorite videos. One of the
Well,
guys found himself a new bride. And this video, you can hear them shooting and this guy firing an RPG, but no one's shooting at them, which means there's no one to be shooting at.
Yeah.
Good, that was your homeboy, huh?
Алло.
Oh, God.
And I do have one more video to show about them over in the Google Drive. I just have to remember what I called it.
I am glad I made a screen for this, so we don't have to show all this.
Yeah, there is some pretty crazy stuff. Bad TikTok is the title of the video, and bad TikTok. It doesn't show any gore. Let me say that right away. It doesn't show any gore, but this is what happens when the TikTok brigade actually takes contact.
Bad Russia, Emma, bad TikTok. Okay, load it up. Screen. There we go.
Основная задача выполнена. Выполнена на 5 с плюсом. Суммарно у нас 3 трехсотых.
And just like the bridge, he has been deleted.
Let's watch that. Let's watch that again.
Основная задача выполнена. Выполнена на 5 с плюсом. Суммарно
Just
у нас
appreciate it.
3
Just
трехсотых.
appreciate it. Yeah. Just got deleted.
And that's what happens when you TikTok when you should be fighting a war.
Yeah.
Don't TikTok in war, kids.
Don't TikTok and war does not mix.
That's the NASA Bunker 33 PSA for the day. Don't TikTok in war.
TikTok and war does not mix.
So yeah, they've one of the places that they suffered heavy losses was at Hostomel Airport, which, as many people know, there's a guy named Operator Starsky who he fought at Hostomel Airport. And guess which side took really heavy losses at Hostomel, and guess which side didn't?
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. Operator Starsky still does YouTube videos.
Yeah.
All right. So, a couple of things I want to talk about that I don't really have videos for. The first, Russia has a really hard time with precision weaponry.
Oh, this.
As we've kind of talked about, shit just hitting randomly, and they just fire randomly. And the Western doctrine, I don't really want to say the US doctrine because it's not just our doctrine, but the Western doctrine is precision strikes to kill the enemy with none to as little as possible collateral damage.
Yeah.
So to do that, the US built a system called GPS. A lot of people may be familiar with GPS because you put a bunch of satellites up there, and
it operates on those balloons that are in the sky, right?
yeah,
Balloons.
Satelloons.
Satelloons.
It operates on Satelloons, and we're able to put GPS trackers in our munitions, everything from artillery shells, such as the Excalibur round for the M777, all the way up to, our largest bombs. We can tell it the GPS coordinates of where we want it, and it goes there and blows up. And basically, at that point, we just have to decide how much of a boom we want for that target. And it goes there and makes the size boom we want it to make. And that's it. Well, Russia thought, hey, that's a great idea. So we'll build a bunch of GPS guidance systems for our planes and our tanks and our munitions and everything. And then they invaded Ukraine, and the US flipped the Russian GPS light switch and said, nope, you don't get to access our GPS satellites anymore. And all of a sudden, Russian GPS didn't work anymore. And even though I don't have any pictures of it, I think it is priceless. Every time I see a picture or video inside a Russian fighter plane cockpit, because they have ordered, one of them was a fucking like GPS that you would buy for just a motorboat that had like a fish finder and depth finder on it, duct taped to the dash of his fighter plane
Oh
that he
gosh.
bought off of Amazon, just so he can try to get to the city he's supposed to be going to. Another one had one of those little handheld Garmin uh, GPS units, like uh, you take when you go hiking, that just has the little, 2-inch screen, like an old flip phone size screen on it. Uh, and that's how he was navigating. Because all of a sudden, Russia didn't have access to GPS, they couldn't do shit. So they have Russia does have its own GPS network, but they kind of really don't have their own GPS network because, as far as Russia goes, they talk a big game and they say that their new invention is the most technologically advanced thing in the world. And then when they try to use it, it doesn't work at all
Yeah.
or has severe flaws. And so their GPS system really doesn't work. And because of that, they're reduced to using basically INS, inertial navigation systems, which, this is stuff that the US used for targeting in like the 1960s, like Vietnam era, I guess. Uh, like that's the most technologically advanced stuff that Russia's able to use right now.
Well.
Uh, so yeah. And that kind of brings me to what I was talking about with you earlier that I just found out about today. Russia now the S-400 has technically been out since 2007, but it hasn't really been deployed uh, until like 2015 or 2016. But the S-400 is a SAM site, a surface to air battery, consisting of about 20 trucks worth of equipment. Everything from one truck has a radar, one truck has a command center, one truck has generators, and then trucks that carry these 4 gigantic telegraph pole sized missiles each that can shoot a plane from 400 kilometers away. And this thing's supposed to be the greatest SAM network in the world. It
Yeah.
has like 4 different types of missiles, short range, medium range, long range, and super long range. And so, it can fire at planes up to 400 kilometers away and knock them out of the sky. No big deal. It can shoot down American stealth planes, whereas no other SAM system in the world can. It can find them, it can lock onto them, and it can knock them out of the sky. But guess what we found out this week that it can't do? And Zumi, I know you know the answer because I've already told you.
Yeah. You can't target ground-based vehicles.
Well, it can't target rocket artillery.
Yeah.
And guess what the U.S. sent Ukraine? Rocket artillery. And guess what Ukraine did with that rocket artillery?
Yeah.
They blew up the $1 billion S-400. So this greatest invention that Russia's ever had that can hunt down F-22s and F-35s and B-2 bombers and knock them out of the sky from 400 kilometers away. It can be blown up with a single piece of rocket artillery that cost $150,000. It's beautiful.
Sounds like it.
And it makes it basically worthless at this point because the US happens to have rocket artillery that can hit something from 600 kilometers away.
Yeah.
So literally, we just have to get a HIMARS or an M270 into a nearby country to take out the S-400s.
Yeah.
And the guy that owns the company that makes the S-400s actually came out like yesterday or today uh, and stated that he's sorry, but yeah, his $1 billion SAM site cannot do anything about the HIMARS. So, oops. Sorry, Russia, you kind of waste billions of dollars on that. And it's glorious. And due to all the losses that Russia has suffered, I haven't actually seen today's numbers yet, but Russia has lost we're getting close to 2,000 tanks at this point, and 4,000 uh, BTRs and infantry fighting vehicles, troop carriers, stuff like that, like armored vehicles that aren't tanks. And 38,000. We just passed 38,000 dead Russian soldiers in this thing Russia's not calling a war,
Yeah.
which is over half of what the U.S. suffered in 10 years of the Vietnam War. Russia suffered it in 5 months in Ukraine. And, Russia has so many losses, equipment losses, and everything, that there are pictures coming out now that they've resorted to using dump trucks to carry troops around. There are pictures of 20 or 30 soldiers in full combat gear with their AK rifles and everything crowded in the back of a dump truck going to the battlefield. And Russia just reactivated a pre-World War II biplane to use. They've dipped that far into their military surplus that they're actually using pre-World War II equipment. And not just guns now. I mean, it's one thing They were using the Mosin Nagant, which is a gun that was built in like the 1890s. They've been using that for a while in this war. And that's one thing because a gun's still going to shoot a bullet.
Yeah.
And you can still aim a gun and shoot.
Yeah.
Even if it is a bolt action from 1890, you can still kill a person with it.
Yeah.
But using a biplane from the 1930s or 1920s or whenever it was, I forget what exact. It's a yak something, I believe, uh, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Uh, Using something like that, like Ukraine has gotten to where they can shoot down pretty much any drone that Russia flies over, and now they're going to try to fly biplanes, and that's not going to end very well.
Yeah, it's not.
uh, so, all right. Speaking about drones, uh, one thing that has come out of this that I've found very interesting is there's a position in modern militaries uh, called an artillery spotter, basically. Uh, there's someone who goes to the front line, and historically, they have to see the enemy. They have to be in visual range of the enemy. So it's a pretty dangerous job. And they have to be able to call back to the artillery and tell them where to shoot. And it takes a lot of training. You have to know, depending on what system you use, like, we use grids and everything uh, to target our artillery. Uh, you have to learn how to spot landmarks and identify where on the grid they are and identify, from several hundred yards away, sometimes what could be 50 meters, what could be 100 meters, things like that, and try to get something that's firing a shell from 20 miles away to hit this target. And, think about all the training it takes to be an artillery spotter. And they're in one of the most dangerous positions on a battlefield. They're on the front line doing their job.
Yeah.
So they're going to get shot at, they're going to get killed. And it's very costly when one of them gets killed because it takes so long to train one of these people.
Yep.
Uh, so, they're investing a lot more, and this person really is a lot more valuable than just your uh, basic grunt with a rifle. So, during this war, Ukraine has basically erased that position from the military because they figured out how to do artillery spotting with drones, where their spotter can be miles and miles behind the line where the enemy can't hit them. And they can just fly a drone over and look down and find the enemy and tell the artillery where to shoot. And the enemy can't shoot them. This is the first time. This is the first war where, just these cheap drones that you can buy off Amazon, like, you know, drones that Red's rhetoric used to prove the Earth isn't flat, like a DJI Mavic, a $300 drone off Amazon because it has
Yeah.
GPS. So all he has to do is fly it and look at where it is. It tells him the GPS coordinates of where it is. and then he spots the enemy and figures out where they are.
I was about to
And he
say, and
can do
our
a simple triangle. He can say, okay, well, I'm 300 meters in the air, and I'm looking down at them at a 40-degree angle. So he draws a triangle and figures out exactly where they are and tells artillery, hey, put
yep,
a round right there. And
yep,
boom goes the enemy.
deleted.
Yeah, they get deleted. Just like
Just like that
just like the
bridge.
TikTokers earlier.
Just like the bridge and the soldiers and the TikTokers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there was a Ukrainian drone flying over those TikTokers just a moment earlier
Probably.
because that looked like an explosion from a artillery round.
And see, they don't even have to put troops anywhere. They just drop a bomb from a drone. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. And okay, I'm not going to show the videos. I promised I would not show gore in this stream. Uh, but Ukraine figured out that they can hook up these very simple old
Oh, I've seen some of those.
Soviet grenades
Yeah, I've seen
to
some of those.
drones
Yeah.
and use these auxiliary controls to drop them.
Yeah, just Arduino controls. That's all it takes.
Yeah, they just
It pulls
yeah
it.
they
Pulls
arm
the pin
them.
and
They
drops it.
fly over. They find an enemy and they hit the button and it drops it.
Yep.
The enemy goes boom.
Yep.
So the Russians figured out what they were doing and said, "Oh, hey, we can do that."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Sure,
their idea
sure,
was,
sure.
"Hey,
Yeah.
let's take a hand grenade and let's pull the pin out of the hand grenade
Uh,
and then put like a plastic solo cup on the hand grenade so that, the handle won't come off and it won't light the fuse.
oh, God.
And then we'll hang the hand grenade on the drone and fly it off, find an enemy and drop it. And as it falls, the cup will come off, or when it hits the ground, the cup will come off, the handle gets released, grenade goes boom 4 seconds later.
That, that is
Well,
that is the stupidest fucking way of doing that.
yeah. Well, the Russians hadn't quite figured out, like, one thing the Ukrainians figured out very quick was you needed to have the drone basically hovering already
Yeah.
when you hook the bomb to it.
Like, yeah.
And it basically needs to be free floating, so it's not like jerking around or anything. And they figured out all the little intricacies about it. Well, the Russians didn't figure that part out.
Yeah, because they're
So
used to
they would
just
do all
hit
this. They would,
weapons.
they would hang the grenade on the drone with the cup on it, and then they would flick the throttle up to 100, and the drone would fly away.
And it'd go boom.
But the grenade wouldn't. They would
Yeah.
fly away so quickly that whatever little thing was holding the grenade on couldn't hold on to it,
Oh, God.
and it would just drop the grenade back on
God.
them.
Oh, God.
Or if the grenade did hold on, the cup would fall
Oh,
off.
yeah, and then
So the drone
boom goes
would shoot off, and 4 seconds later, the drone would go boom.
they are just
And
totally
there are countless videos of Russians dropping grenades on themselves.
they are so fucking inept.
It's almost beautiful, really.
Yeah.
But there is one drone grenade drop that we can watch. And I believe I called it what did I call it? It's in the drive and it's called Last Poop. And this is my favorite video of the war. And I want everyone here to enjoy it.
Oh shit.
As
Yeah.
you can see here, we have a Russian soldier taking his morning poop.
Oh, for some reason the screen capture has a filter. Did not
What?
have did not have a color key filter on it.
What in the world? I mean, that'll work, to be honest. Yeah, I see it on the stream.
There,
That's weird.
I fixed it.
Okay. Yeah.
It shouldn't.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, you know how it is. You wake up in the morning and you got to drop a deuce. So, the this poor Russian piece of shit decided to go drop a piece of shit. And there just so happened to be a Ukrainian drone driver who wanted to ruin this guy's morning shit.
yeah. Yep. There it goes. Ooh.
And that's the last poop he ever took.
Yeah. No, he's
So,
still alive. He's still alive.
yeah, he's he's not going to be alive much longer.
No.
You know, a lot of shrapnel came out of that thing and went into him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he had the wherewithal to get his bikini cut briefs back up. Uh, but yeah, he's not going to be doing well for very much longer. So yeah, because there was no blood and because you see him moving afterwards, I figured YouTube wouldn't have a problem with that.
I don't know
Uh,
about still.
but yeah, that's my all-time favorite grenade drop that I've seen so far. Poor fella just wanted to poop. And can you imagine, you know, one day you're sitting there in your little shitty corner of Russia. You've never even heard of indoor plumbing, and uh, your 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 grandmother, who's also your aunt, uh, married your brother and had you, and uh, Mother Russia came calling and sent you to this foreign land to kill the bad people that they made up, and all you wanted to do was poop. And now
Yeah.
look at you.
Yeah. All he wanted to do was poop.
Uh, so I've let's see, what have I not covered yet?
It kind of reminds me of that the toilet that got struck by lightning at one time.
Yeah.
Glad nobody was on the toilet at the time, but still, lightning that strikes fucking toilet. That's kind of scary. So
All right.
children,
So
children,
let
if you have to use the toilet, if it is thundering, don't use the bathroom in the thunderstorm.
yeah, you know, electricity can flow through water.
Yeah, and then your toilet can go boom with you on it, and that's not fun. It doesn't look like fun at all.
Let's jump back over to the Discord for a moment,
I've
and
got everything loaded up, so
uh, let's go to the Operator Starsky video. Not so fresh Kremlin's fakes. I'm going to let you play that through, and I'm going to take a quick bathroom break,
okay.
and I'll be back in a moment.
Alrighty then.
I have to tell you this, you are so lucky. Not only because you don't live in the war zone at this point, because everything can change very fast unless Russia is defeated, but it's because you don't have to do my duties, which is surfing through Russian bullshit every single day. Hello my friends, my name is Operator Starsky, and today we're going to talk about the most recent and not so fresh Russian fakes that were spread by Kremlin's propaganda throughout this month. So one of the most typical fakes that is widely spread by Russian propaganda throughout years, I would say, is the one regarding lying about Ukrainian losses. So Ukrainian Air Force analyzed the news that were published by Russian media since beginning of this invasion, and according to their analysis, Russian media claim that they have destroyed 70 Ukrainian Su-25 attack aircraft, which means that every single pilot of Ukrainian Su-25 has died 2 times already, because Ukraine had only 26 active airplanes of this type. According to some research, Ukraine had 31 Su-25 active by 2022, but still this number is 2 times smaller than the bullshit that is spread by Russian media. Also, sources close to Russian Ministry of Invasion, including their propagandist media, of course, claim that Russian anti-air forces have shot down 80 Ukrainian Bayraktar TB2 attack drones, which is again 10 Bayraktars more than we have, because as of July 2022 we've had 70 Bayraktars in Ukrainian army. But 70 Bayraktars is not enough.
Работаем каждый день на поле битвы. Уже 1000 уничтоженных байрактаров.
1000 уничтоженных байрактаров.
Wow, 1000 drones of Bayraktar TB2 type destroyed in Ukraine. That's a very impressive number. You can literally imagine those Russian anti-air soldiers running around shooting at those TB2 drones from their assault rifles and throwing stones and sticks and jumping up in the air, smashing them with their knuckles. Mighty Russian soldiers. That's unbelievable. Every single time when I see that on Russian television or in the Russian media, I literally wanna ask them, when will you stop lying on your national TV? But of course it's impossible, because as soon as Russian media stop lying, Russia will inevitably start turning into a democratic country. What's the point of trusting this regime that had shot down MH17 Boeing over Donbass with their weapon, claiming that there's no Russian troops in Donbass in 2014, and lied for 8
Pause it right
years. They lied about...
Okay, so what he's talking about, MH17, Malaysia Airlines, back in 2014, was shot down over southeastern Ukraine.
Okay.
And Russia claimed that it was shot down by Ukraine. And it was recovered and pieced together, and they kept finding these bow tie shaped pieces of shrapnel. And they were able to figure out not only what type of missile hit the aircraft, but they were able to trace it and find out the exact piece of equipment that it was shot from. And they found out that just a day before, that piece of equipment had been geotagged in Russia.
Oh god, so they shut down their own stuff and then
So-
blamed Ukraine.
No, it wasn't their own plane. It was a Malaysia Airlines flight
Oh,
flying
yeah.
from,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it was from Germany
Oh.
down to Malaysia or something like that. But they moved this anti-aircraft, the SAM site, into Ukraine the day before or the day of, with the intent of shooting down a passenger airliner and blaming it on Ukraine. And we know this now because not only the evidence, but they fucking tried it again a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, they did.
They tried the exact same setup again, but because we knew that they had done it before, we rerouted every plane so they wouldn't fly close enough for Russia to do it.
Yeah.
But U.S. intelligence or British intelligence, I forget which, actually intercepted some messages about them trying to do it. So they were wanting to do it again, and it killed something like 283 people or something like that. Like,
yeah.
It was a full plane that they shot down. And again, this is why Russia is a terrorist state.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
And should be quarantined from the rest of the world because of the things that... Okay, let's finish his video, and then I've got a couple more examples that he didn't bring up.
About this to the whole world. I mean, can you even trust their news after that? I would like to know your thoughts in the commentaries. My name is Operator Starsky. Thanks for watching.
Oh, oops, did not mean to do that.
Okay, so one thing he didn't bring up that I had actually heard just like a day or two before he released that video is that Russia has claimed to shoot down, I think it's like 25 more helicopters than Ukraine has.
Damn.
So Ukraine, apparently, according to Russia, Ukraine now has negative 25 helicopters. And somehow they're still flying helicopters.
Oh, God.
Even though they have negative 25 helicopters. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, back in the drive, I have two pictures. The first is called Pick TB21.
Pick TB21.
We're going to talk about some Russian lies. There it is. Yeah. All right, bring that up on the screen. And we're going to take a look at this. This is a Turkish Bayraktar TB2 drone that Ukraine has made world famous because in the early days of the war, these things basically kept Russia from taking Kyiv in 3 days. These are one of the heroes of the war to this point. And this is one that Russians shut down. This is a future dead Russian soldier, hopefully. Piece of fertilizer standing next to it. And you'll notice there's 3 circles here. One is number 1, one is number 2, and one is number 3. Now, number 1 is showing a spot on the tail. And if anyone wants these pictures so that they can zoom in and inspect them a little bit more, just message me on Discord. I'll send them to you. But you can kind of see here how the piece of that tail is broken. And then the spot number 2, the leading edge of the wing, you can see how it's got that rectangular piece missing and it's broken. And then the circle around 3, you can see a crack running down the midsection of the wing. You can also tell that this is pretty early on in the war because there are no leaves on the trees and all all the grass is stomped down, the field is empty, the grass isn't alive or anything. So, this is pre-spring in this picture. All right, now if you'll pull up pick TB2 2 for us, please. It should be right next to that one.
Perfect.
All right, now this is another TB2 drone that Russia shot down in a different place. As you can see, this drone has landed in a city, or at least a village or something. Now, this is also fairly early in the war. It looks like the trees in the background are still, they don't have leaves on them or anything. But you'll notice something when you go to look at the tail. You'll notice that there's an exact matching spot at circle number 1 to the other drone. And then you'll notice underneath that, at the base of the tail, this drone miraculously landed where 2 rocks happened to be sitting perfectly to prop its tail up. And then if you turn your attention to circle number 2, you'll see somehow in this completely different location on what I assume to be a completely different day of the war, a completely different missile made an exact same hole at spot number 2 and an exact same crack at circle number 3.
Well, yeah.
So this is one way that Russia inflates the losses that they've caused by literally picking up pieces from something and moving it to a different location and photographing it again and saying it's a different one.
Wow.
And making sure that in only one set of photos, and there are actually multiple photos for each of these locations, but you'll never see the identification number on the tail that you can see in this picture. You'll never see that in the other location. All the pictures they took in the other location, never see the identification numbers. So what I assume is they had shot it down in that field. And then they moved it here. The reason I think they moved it here is because of the 2 rocks propping the tail up.
Yeah.
They actually had to make the effort to put the tail in that position, which makes me think that it didn't crash here.
Yeah, they probably moved it. It does look like they moved it.
So that's how they can show pictures. And now this is something that can be geolocated. I don't think you can geolocate the other picture, the first picture we looked at, because it's a pretty nondescript field. Unless you look at the metadata of the picture and there's a GPS location or something from that, then you're probably not going to find out where that one was taken. But you could geolocate this. So Russia did that to inflate the losses that Ukraine has taken to their TB2s. And if they did that to a TB2, how do you know they didn't do it to something else?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So give me just a second here. Let's see. I got to figure out what we have missed. Okay. There's a couple of really short ones here. I'm going to bring up, there's a man named Konstantin Nikotinko. Konstantin Nikotinko was a Ukrainian soldier that fought down in the city of Mariupol, or however you say it, uh, down on the coast. And he was the gunner of a infantry fighting vehicle. He basically had a 30 millimeter autocannon. And Constantine was a badass. Constantine was basically what you could refer to as an ace. He mowed down Russian soldiers in that town. He destroyed a lot of people with his 30 millimeter autocannon. He and his crew were literally a 3-man wrecking crew. And that city didn't fall as long as they were in their vehicle.
Yeah. Kind of like the Inglorious Bastards, huh?
Yeah. Kind of like the Ghost of Kiev, the ace in a day. And there's actually video of Constantine, of a patrol of Russian soldiers comes around the corner of a building, and Constantine's waiting for them, and he mows them down. And it's beautiful. I mean, he shows no mercy, and he deletes about 20 Russians in this video.
Oh.
And once they hit the ground, if he sees them moving, he gives them a few more rounds.
Yeah.
And eventually Constantine, unfortunately, his vehicle was hit, but he didn't die. Constantine was actually captured by the Russians.
Oh, shit.
And the Russians, Russia is kind of weird. They were a little bit mad that Constantine had probably killed well over 100 of their soldiers at this point.
I would imagine they would be a little bit mad.
But Russia can't really do anything about it because, see, Russia has Russia doesn't have the death penalty in their country. But you know what isn't Russia? The territory that Russia took in Ukraine, which happens to be the city that they caught Constantine in. So, Russia set up a fake court, and they tried Constantine for crimes against humanity. And their evidence was this video that I'm not going to show because, like I said, I'm not going to show gore on this stream. This video that you can see him mowing down a bunch of Russian soldiers.
Yeah, if you want
But
to
in
get
this
taken
court,
down.
but in this court, instead of showing the original version, the prosecutor decided to show the potato version, where you can't see the guns that the men were holding, and you can't see their obvious Russian uniforms. And they claimed that these were not soldiers at all; that these were actually citizens. These were civilians that he mowed down that day. And so Constantine was sentenced to death, and he's now awaiting his execution. And these are the stupid things that Russia does.
Yeah.
They executed a British soldier who tried to help people evacuate from areas controlled by Russia. He didn't actually have a gun. From what I understand, he didn't have a gun. He was there on humanitarian efforts. He was a former soldier trying to help people evacuate. And he was captured, and he somehow mysteriously died in captivity. They don't know how he died in captivity.
Yeah,
But I have an idea.
mysteriously.
Yeah.
Right.
Such is the mysteries of things that happen with Russia.
Yeah.
Uh, so I know Zumi isn't feeling well. I've still got like 20 topics we can talk about, but it is already 11:10, and I know we're competing with other streamers and everything. Uh, I do have one more thing that we'll cover tonight, and uh, it's a pretty big one. On the 4th of July, of course, I know we have a lot of non American friends, but the 4th of July is pretty big as an American. And apparently it's pretty big for Ukraine as well because, you know, Ukraine wouldn't still be fighting right now if it weren't for the things that we've sent them to help them fight, as well as the rest of the world. It's not just us, but they decided to do a little something special for the U.S. for our birthday this year. Uh, the video's in the drive. It's called "Thank You."
Thank you.
Uh,
Find it.
and this is the Ukrainian way of saying thank you for what we've done for them. And as an American, I feel like a proud big brother. And I believe that's all we got for you tonight.
Yep, looks like it.
uh, that'll get you a little bit emotional.
A little bit.
So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do enjoy these, let us know because you know, I keep up with what's going on and I have a pretty good base knowledge of military and weaponry and tactics and logistics and the things that go into what it takes to fight and what it takes to win a war.
Yeah.
And how that can be implemented, how the West implements it, how Russia implements it, and things like that. And uh, because of that, you know, I'm not military. My dad was, and uh, I can talk about some things that my dad did that he shouldn't have told me about because they're technically top secret.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, we came very very close to nuclear annihilation on his watch.
Wow.
Yeah, I won't say what the situation was, but my dad was part of Operation Chrome Dome, which was when the United States had B 52 bombers flying around the world 24 hours a day, loaded with nuclear weapons, so that in case of a war, all we had to do was enter some codes and they would drop the nukes.
Oh, great. That
Uh,
sounds like sounds really fun.
yeah, and
Uh,
we kind of accidentally dropped a lot of nukes.
like on North Carolina, for instance,
Yeah, and South Carolina
and
and
South Carolina.
Greenland
Yeah.
and Spain and yeah. Uh, we've admitted to 32, by the way, but that's beyond the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Uh, to activate a nuclear warhead at the time, you had to have uh,
And
three parts of a code.
and
Three
that's
different people had part of a code.
those are only ones we admitted to.
Yeah, that's what we've admitted to.
That's what
Uh,
we've admitted to, not the ones that they don't admit to.
yeah. So we had to have three different people. Each person had part of a code, and my dad was the number two man,
Oh, okay. So he was Putin.
which
Okay.
meant that which meant that the pilot had part of the code. My
Yeah.
dad had part of the code, and then one other person had part of the code.
Okay.
And my dad was the second person to enter, which meant that literally there was one man that if he punched his code in, that meant it was war. My dad had to punch his code in one time.
Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And when I say went to war, I mean, nuclear annihilation, like
Yeah.
the world is over. That kind of war. I'm not talking about the war in Ukraine type war. I'm talking
Yeah.
about erasing the face of the earth from the earth type war.
Yeah.
Uh, my dad had to enter his code one time. Uh, so you know, I come from that understanding, and I spend at least 2 hours a day on Telegram, on YouTube, stuff like that, keeping up with what's going on in the war. And so I feel like I have a good knowledge of things, and I feel like I can do these updates. I can do these shows
Yeah.
if this is something that people like. If they like them more often, if they like them less often, if they don't like them, let me know. Uh, this is something that could become its own weekly show, or this is something we could do once a month, or
Yeah.
this is something we could never do again.
Yeah.
Whatever you people want.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy talking about it, to be honest, because there's a lot to talk about, and
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about what's going on, and I feel like if I was more able-bodied, I would be in Ukraine right now trying to help.
Me too. Honestly.
I've tried to get on a refugee program because I have 2 extra bedrooms in my house. And if there were refugees that needed to use them, then I would be happy helping them. But I haven't been able to yet. But just that's something that I could do. I know, I'm not able-bodied enough to go over there and fight.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that I can't do, but I want to do anything I can
Yeah.
to help these people. Uh, every Ukrainian that I've talked to has been like salt of the earth, good people. Uh, Even in the face of the Russian war machine, this gigantic military coming for them, they still have an incredible sense of humor and bravery and sense of who they are.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, everyone just let me know if you want me to keep doing this. I can. If you don't like it, we won't do it. Just let me know. But with that, I believe we're done. Do, do we want to play the Russian song?
Oh God, fine. Play it so bad. You want to play it
What?
so bad, I'll play it.
It's called Russian music.
You want to play it so badly, fine, I'll play it.
So this will be our well.
Good night,